Hey there, and welcome back to the Disrupt Desk. We're here to break down everything that you might have missed. But before that, we're going to do some housekeeping notes. You guys know the drill by now. Networking is open, so hit instant meetings if you want to meet someone random. Sounds fun. Or smash that crunch match button to meet the person you've been looking for all along. Are you getting your Disrupt Passport stamped for a chance to win a Van Moof e-bike? Head to the Disrupt Passport virtual booth to find out more. I actually get paid every time that I say that. Wouldn't that be fun? If you don't want to hang with us here on the Disrupt Desk, there is a killer conversation going down on the TechCrunch stage in about 5 minutes featuring Aaron Matthew of Accel, Michelle Romano from Clearco, and Harry Hurst from Pipe. They're going to be talking about how to ditch traditional fundraising. Just catch that if you want. Now, let's get into our discussion on impact. You know, it takes two to tango, so I'm going to bring on my other half, professionally speaking, of course, Daryl Etherington, our breaking news editor. What's up, dude?
Hey, how's it going? You know that it's more than just professional, Jordan.
Creepy. We also need some help. You're going to need some help from Shelly Hodmoyal. She is a founding partner at iAngels. Her fund has a huge focus on climate tech and sustainability startups. So we're really excited for you to be here today, Shelly. Thanks for hanging out.
Thank you for inviting me.
My pleasure. So I thought because all of the panels that we just had were live, we don't actually have clips to go back and look at, but I thought we could talk about some of the topics that were covered. And one of them in that last panel was about greenwashing, which seems to be really, really prevalent right now. And so I'm just wondering, for you as an investor, how do you kind of do your due diligence on these types of startups, knowing that all this greenwashing is going on out there?
So first of all, it's important to note I'm a venture capitalist, so I'm investing in relatively early stage startups that on a large scale set out to create a positive impact in a specific area. Now, greenwashing is something that happened in light of ESG and regulations and many investors and pension funds that are requiring from traditional large companies, large conglomerates to be socially responsible, for them, requiring them to be more green or more sustainable. And what they're trying to do, they're trying to green themselves or make themselves appear to be more sustainable. And there, a lot of that is marketing. It's marketing to make consumers want to purchase their product. It's trying to create a certain vision. So large investors actually invest in their companies. Whereas usually when we're investing in startups, these companies are already setting out with an intention to create an impact in certain industries. And when you're looking at things in those lenses, or when you're thinking of startup in those lenses, they're already trying to measure their impact in that respect. And when you're thinking about greenwashing is the notion of marketing or of saying something that you're not really doing. But when you're doing due diligence on a startup, you actually need to look beyond the words. You need to do reference checks, you need to do due diligence, you need to see that there's actually substance behind what they're doing, similar to how you would evaluate any investment. And in that respect, it's easier for us because it's much easier to measure the impact or measure a footprint of a single product versus a conglomerate that's looking to create an impression about how they are and what they're doing and the positive versus negative impact that they're creating.
Yeah, that makes sense because it's not like you're a big, huge automaker or something. It's like, well, we're green overall. It's like I'm a very specific startup. I have a very specific goal, and you can go check my progress against this one goal, right?
Exactly. There was also an example, I don't know who made it, but they looked at Danone, which, they create yogurts and foods and everything, and they had $4 billion of profit, but the products are so sugary that the cost, the impact cost on the world was negative because of all that sugar. And as a startup investor, it's very different in terms of taking all those components into consideration. When you're looking at ESG and sustainable investing, that's a $40 trillion market. When you're looking at impact and on startups, that's a $1 trillion market. Right. And I think actually when you're thinking about greenwashing, the more you're standardizing the way you're looking and measuring the actual impact of also larger companies, the more you're creating, just like you have general accounting principles, the more you have that for impact also for the larger companies, the easier it will be for investors like myself and like others to measure the actual net impact that they have on the environment.
I think another question I had just related to sustainability, and maybe this is something that you can treat as a bit self-serving for you, but how do founders who are working in this area identify the best partners to work with, given that there is more interest in this, right? There's a bit of a moment around sustainable tech and impact investing. So how do they evaluate who's going to be the best partner from the investment side for me and to help me achieve my goals?
So first of all, it's very similar to any other startup. As a startup founder, you're first of all looking for partners that are interested in your industry, that want to fund your industry. And if you can find also partners that have knowledge and are able to create added value connections for you, then the more the merrier. I think that for impact startups, specifically sustainability startups and climate change startups, there are two additional things that you need to take into consideration. First of all, the policy and the regulation, because a lot of the growth drivers of this industry are actually changes in the policy and how regulatory bodies are looking at this. Yeah. And this is one thing that you need to be able to articulate to investors. And the other thing is impact. So there are today about 140 impact investors or impact funds. They're not just looking at kind of the risk reward or what's the economic opportunity here, but they also want to see that you're actually measuring the impact and you're thoughtful about it and you're thinking about it. So if you're a startup that's in the sustainability space, then many of the investors that are interested in exactly what you're doing will want to see that you're actually measuring, you're actually using data, you're actually using technology to show how you're making a positive impact.
And Shelley, I mean, so briefly, because we do have to, we have some ground to cover here in this Disrupt Desk segment, but I'm just wondering, as you're talking about sustainability startups, is there anything that they should be doing differently when they're fundraising that maybe other startups don't do? Maybe mentioning kind of what the regulatory hurdles might be and being prepared for it, or is there anything special that they should be doing when pitching?
It really depends on the audience. Today, when you're thinking about sustainability, it's not, if you're thinking historically, when I'm saying historically, I'm even talking about 3-4 years ago, people thought about climate change as a political issue, as something of a belief. Like, do you believe in climate change or you don't believe in climate change? Today, we're far beyond this point. And it's very clear that climate change is here. We're feeling it. There has already been a degree and a half. I mean, I'm in Israel and it's so hot here. And people are realizing it's huge and it's scientific. So you need to differentiate between the people that really understand it and are there, and you need to talk their language because they already get it. And there are many funds that are focused on this area. And more traditional investors that you actually need to educate them. Now, some of them might have an emotional connection. They might have a relative that died of cancer, or they might have, someone that experienced some sort of radiation because of, they lived in a certain area. But those investors, they need to educate more and they need to explain more why this is a huge opportunity. But really, that's the only difference, because the problems related to sustainability, these are mega trends. The fact that we need to increase longevity, the fact that we need to feed 10 billion people, the fact that we need to advance third countries. So I think I think as entrepreneurs, you need to be very audience focused, and you need to think about what are the messages that you want to get through.
Awesome. That's great. That's great advice, Shelley. So I'm thinking with the time that we have left, it might be cool if we took a look at some of the awesome Startup Alley companies that are hanging out in the expo hall. And we actually have a couple clips from a couple companies that they sent through for us. So with that, I'm going to push us over to a clip of Nosh Technologies.
Hi, my name is Somdipte and I'm the CEO of Nosh Technologies, where we are utilizing cutting-edge technologies such as artificial intelligence, blockchain, to develop mobile solutions to fight food waste at home. Every year, we end up wasting more than 1.3 billion tons of food, a lot of which is due to poor management. Whereas more than 800 million people do not have enough food to live a healthy lifestyle. So, at Nosh Technologies, we are developing the Nosh app that helps you to optimize your food consumption by managing food more effectively, getting smart recipes, getting analytics on your consumption, the ability to buy food at an affordable price, and many more. All these help you to live a healthier lifestyle, save money, and reduce food waste. So, join the food saving revolution by visiting Nosh.tech.
Really cool. I mean, that's one of those things where they're taking a lot of the heavy lifting out for the user. Shelley, what do you think about a startup like this? Is this something you might invest in?
So first of all, I want to separate. First of all, I think the vision is very worthy. I mean, there's a lot of waste out there, and there are a lot of people that want to, that need to eat. I think that for this specific product, they need to think about how they turn their solution into something that's just nice to have. I mean, understanding what are your expiry dates, or what are the different things that you can do with your mayonnaise before you throw it away, to something that actually makes a difference. Now, there are different ways to think about it. Potentially, how do you take some of that waste and give it to people that, although you're not going to eat it, it's still something that's edible? How do you give it to people that need to eat it? Or how do you create this more into a data play? Because there are many companies today that are kind of scanning receipts and selling that data to hedge fund and money managers. But I think that even from a pure logistic perspective or a money management perspective, I think that that specifically it would be helpful for them to think, how do they make this product sticky, something that I want to constantly use, rather than look at my refrigerator and see what's the expiry date of my milk.
Excellent feedback. I know that you guys focus a lot on climate tech and sustainability, but you also, as an impact fund, look at health tech. We actually have a health tech company that's in the startup alley that wanted to tell you a little bit about themselves. So I'm going to throw to a clip for Layla Wellness.
All right. So we obviously see a lot of fertility and health related startups come through TechCrunch, but so it's something that I think there's growing interest in. But I'm curious for you, what do you think, Shelley, of this company's approach in particular, and then kind of maybe even some thoughts about the fertility space in general?
So first of all, again, I think this is a very worthy space. There are a lot of women that are spending a lot of time trying to get pregnant. As a venture capital investor, I'm always looking for businesses that are sticky, that have the potential to be a repeat business. And in this case, I have a few issues. First of all, there is a big need, but there are actually solutions out there. So, for example, a woman that wants to understand more of fertility, she can buy these sticks. They don't cost a lot of money. She can pee on them, and she can see, when she's fertile. And there's an issue of trust here. Like, what will make a woman decide to kind of, skip that, 30 seconds in the morning to check, versus actually bringing something into her body. And I think that's a very important point in terms of markets, because there is a need. But the question is if there's a pressing need, and if there's a solution, you always need to think about if that solution is worthwhile. And the other point is that once you get pregnant, then the solution is not necessarily required anymore. Now today, in order to get customers, you have cost of acquisition. So you really want to make sure that you have a lifetime value that justifies people coming back to you. And in this case, if it's just a matter of fertility, then how do you get people to come back to you? I actually had a couple of things that I thought in my mind. Maybe if you combine it with contraception, because this is already something that someone puts in their body. Sometimes some women put in their body contraception. Maybe you can turn off and on, or maybe potentially you can create a community. But again, I think that as a venture capital investor, you really need to think what will create a very big market and a very big opportunity for you to break through.
That's great. Yeah, those are awesome points. And they're not necessarily the ones that people think of either when they're coming up with ideas or when they're trying to evaluate these ideas. So it's terrific to hear from your perspective about that kind of mental math that goes on.
There's just one other point about fertility. A lot of people don't realize that fertility issues are not just because of not knowing when you're fertile. A lot of fertility issues are simply because people are not fertile, and maybe creating solutions of understanding quickly if you have a fertility issue or if you have a timing issue, and that's also something very important.
Love that, Shelley. As always, your feedback and thoughts are fantastic. And Daryl, as always, I'm just still kind of lukewarm on you, but I appreciate you both taking the time to hang out with us.
It's better than this morning. Thanks.
Thank you for inviting me, as always.